What's the Church of Scientology so afraid of?
This is SPTV. Welcome back, everybody, for more SPTV coverage of the Danny Masterson trial in Los Angeles. Today was day 6 of jury deliberations. In my last video, I mistakenly said that the previous day was day 6. Totally my mistake. Getting on my days all mixed up now. I got to say, before I say anything else about what the jury asked about today, I'm kind of proud of the jurors for continuing on and doing their job. Whatever the hell is going on back there in the deliberation room, we don't know. But not once have the jurors yet come back and said, we're having trouble. We're stuck. We're deadlocked. We don't know what to do. And I find that kind of remarkable. Remember, in the first trial, the jury was coming back on day 2 saying, we give up. We're not going to be able to come to a unanimous decision on any of the 3 counts, and they had to be sent back at least twice, encouraged by Judge Almeida to continue deliberations. These jurors haven't done that once. And it's been a couple days at least since we heard them even ask a question, and they did ask a question today. By the way, kudos to Lisa Bartley at ABC 7 and also James Quealy at the LA Times for hanging out there in the courtroom this whole time, waiting to see what's going on. You know, I have heard a lot of people complaining there's not a lot of mainstream media coverage of this trial, but these guys have been hanging in there and covering this thing. I consider them mainstream media, so I think that's pretty cool. Let me see here. A couple things I want to look at. So they did come out today. The jurors did come out this afternoon and ask for a readback of some things. And they also asked to review some things that the judge said they couldn't have. In Philip Cohen's closing arguments, he has this chart. I forget what he calls it, either the scale of guilt or some scale about having to do with reasonable doubt and guilt. I find this chart that he uses to be a little misleading, personally, and to possibly confuse the jurors as to what constitutes reasonable doubt or what would constitute the level of conviction that would be consistent with a guilty verdict. In the first trial and in this trial, the jury actually asked to review that chart again. And the judge had to say, no, you can't see the chart. A chart from the attorney is not evidence in the case. It's really something the defense just use in argument to be argumentative, to make an argument that you should find Danny Masterson not guilty, really. They also previously had asked to see some Instagram messages between one of the Jane Does and one of the witnesses. And the judge actually ruled that those messages were not admissible into evidence, even though there was testimony about those messages. And even though those messages were actually read aloud on the stand during testimony, the messages themselves were not admissible into evidence. I thought that was interesting. The questions the jurors had this time were once again about Jane Doe 3. The only questions the jurors have ever asked during this entire 5.5, 6 days of deliberations is all about Jane Doe 3. Again, no one really knows what to make of that. Some have speculated, I have hoped, that meant they'd already finished deliberations regarding Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2, and now they were on Jane Doe 3. That could make sense. Remember, that's not the order that the Jane Does testified. Jane Doe 3 was the first to testify. Jane Doe... Oh, now I'm going to get confused. I wanted to say Jane Doe 3 was first, Jane Doe 1 was second, Jane Doe 2 was third, but I could have the last 2 mixed up. So nobody really knows what to make of that. But. So for Jane Doe 3, real quick recap. There's 2 main incidents the jurors have heard about regarding Jane Doe 3. The November hair pulling incident, or the November hitting incident, and the December drugging and raping. What is incredible in this case is that the December drugging and raping is not what Danny's charged with. He's charged with the November hitting and hair pulling incident. The reason for this has to do with what was required in order for the DA to bring these charges. in order for the DA to bring these charges, even though they happened as long ago as they did, technically, individually, each one of these cases is past the statute of limitations. But when you combine the charges together, and when you add an element of force, the statute of limitations doesn't apply. And believe it or not, in California, under the California state law, drugging a woman and raping her is rape, but it's not rape by use of force. And so when Jane Doe 3 originally went to report Danny Masterson to the police for rape, she was reporting him for the December drugging and raping. She wasn't reporting him for the November hitting and hair pulling. Without putting words into her mouth, it is my understanding that at the time she went to the police, she didn't even consider that rape, because what she experienced there was so common, she was used to it. She didn't think of that as rape. The drugging incident, for her, that was rape. Okay, so why are we talking about that? Because the defense attorneys have made a big stink over the fact that in Jane Doe 3's first interview with the police in Austin, Texas, actually she went to Austin, but then the LAPD flew out and interviewed her again in Austin. In her first interview with LAPD detectives in Austin, she did not provide a great amount of detail about the November hitting hair pulling incident. Remember, it's not what she was there to discuss. That incident only even came up because the police asked her, after talking about the December drugging and raping incident, were there any other incidences of domestic violence? She mentioned the November hitting and hair pulling incident because that's the first time Danny had ever struck her. The whole thing about waking up in the middle of him having intercourse with her, that happened all the time. But it's the first time he'd ever struck her when she didn't want it. And it was really the district attorney's office who, when reviewing all the evidence, was like, that November incident is what we're going with, not the December incident. Okay, so Cohen's made a whole big deal of the fact that Jane Doe 3, when she was on the stand in this trial, gave a lot of details about the November hitting and hair pulling incident that she didn't give a few years ago when she originally spoke to the detectives in Austin. And guys, that's what he's paid for. He's paid for to, create reasonable doubt. Be like, well, you remembered this. It's funny. You didn't mention it here. You didn't mention it here. He did an awful lot of that. Okay. So that the cross-examination of Jane Doe 3 regarding the first interview she gave to LAPD detectives in Austin, that cross-examination is what the jurors wanted to read back of. It does seem to indicate they're really hung up here on what did she say about the November hitting and hair pulling incident back then? And what is she saying now? How big is the gap between what's said then and what's said now? Now, if you ask me, from my memory of all the testimony, it's not that testimony has changed. It's that there's details that are being given now that weren't given then. To me, that's common sense. Of course, there's going to be new details. She wasn't even there to discuss that incident with the police. Okay. So let's see some details. So on the cross-examination, for example, and Sean Hawley was the one doing the cross-examination, for example, she said to Jane Doe 3. So when you first spoke to the police, you never mentioned anything about Danny having pinned your arms, above your head. And she's like, nope, I didn't. You didn't say anything about this, attack, for lack of a better word, going on for roughly 30 minutes. Nope, I didn't. In fact, you didn't even say the word rape at all. She goes, nope, I didn't. And I'm just reading through some of this real quick. Anyway, that was the gist of it. Just and this is just being read back to them. Let me see if there was something else. Oh yeah, so it was a readback of 2 parts of the cross-examination of Jane Doe 3, and also the district attorney's redirect examination of Jane Doe 3 after that. So, I sort of go back to what I said in the very beginning here. I'm very heartened and kind of proud of the jurors for whatever the hell they're doing back there to continue to work the process and get down to the core of what people are getting stuck on and asking for the readbacks. I'm still optimistic. If these guys were actually having trouble, they would say we're having trouble. Now, it's very easy to say, and believe me, I'm one of the first people who would want to say it. of like, well, golly gee, if they were going to find him guilty, they could have just found him guilty in the first 8 hours. I mean, like day hours, not deliberation hours. The first day, the second day, the third day. But guys, again, we're in day 6 and they're not even saying we need help. I just don't know what to make of it. And again, I'm just reminded of the fact it was actually James Quealy from the LA Times who pointed out to me, hey, in the Weinstein thing, there was only like four charged victims or 4 counts. They deliberated for almost 3 weeks. And they had already agreed unanimously on one of the victims on the first day. And so I'm still optimistic, guys. Cautiously optimistic is probably the right way to put it. Yeah, so let's see. It's only Thursday. God, it really feels like Friday to me. So they come back tomorrow for day 7. Here's the problem, guys. Apparently, with Memorial Day weekend, I may have this wrong. Don't quote me on it. I think they're off on Monday and Tuesday for court. I think they're off Monday and Tuesday. So if they don't come to a verdict tomorrow, we're not back in court until Wednesday. Don't these jurors have jobs? Don't they have somewhere they need to be? Shouldn't they be like wrapping this thing up? Man, it's wild. It's wild. Okay, so I actually have somewhere to be. So let's jump through some super chats real quick and let's call it a night, shall we? Jessica Ozier. Hopefully we'll have a verdict soon. I'm on pins and needles. Thank you for keeping us updated. You are awesome. Well, Jessica, you are awesome. Thank you so much. Xenu Warrior Princess. I have to turn that into a merch item. Hold on. Give me a second. Merch ideas. Xenu. What was it? Xenu Warrior Princess. Xenu Warrior. If I don't write it down, I'll never remember it. That's got to go on a t-shirt or something. What does it mean to be a minister in the church? Actress Judy Norton claims to be one. A minister, you can be a minister of anything. In Scientology, there's a little minister's course called the minister's course, and you do the course and you get a little signature. I don't know, maybe you have to file some paperwork with the state. All it means is you're allowed to do a wedding, and your signature as the minister makes the wedding legal. There is literally nothing else it means to be a minister. Technically, in Scientology, all Scientology auditors are supposed to be ministers. Technically, it is the Scientology auditor who's wearing the minister hat, the spiritual counselor. In reality, in Scientology, a minister is just a poor sucker who has to conduct the Sunday service ceremony that nobody really wants to go to, because Scientologists aren't really religious people, and they only have to pretend to be churchy because David Miscavige doesn't want to piss off the IRS. That's all it means to be a minister in the Church of Scientology. Thank you, Xenu Warrior Princess. Thank you very, very much. Jen Nelson, off topic, but since you dropped the video about Kara Landry, anyone reach out? Jen Nelson, thank you so much for asking. I did a video earlier today asking people to reach out to me with information about Kara Landry, the son of a good friend of mine, Cindy, daughter of Cindy Plahuta, who she hasn't seen or spoken to in 12 years. We got all the information we needed. Thank you so much. And by the way, your question just jogged my memory as well. Yesterday, I did a video with Apostate Alex, and he said if he hit 5,000 subscribers, he was going to donate $100 to the foundation, and that 17 of his fans had agreed to donate $100 to the Aftermath Foundation. $2,200 in donations came in today to the Aftermath Foundation as a result of Apostate Alex's subscriber game. So thank you, Alex, and thank you to Alex's fans. That was a fantastic thing you guys did, and I just wanted to mention that you guys even beat the target you'd set for yourself. So that's super, super cool. Thank you, guys. Let's see another one. Pajkt. Any luck finding a good French dip near home? Yes, indeed. But I'm going to keep the name of the place a secret for the time being. I'll explain more later. Thank you very much. Kevin, do you think Danny Masterson is more worried as time goes on? I think if I'm Danny Masterson, I'm probably feeling better as time goes on. It's very easy to assume that if the jurors are taking this long, they must be hung. They're going to come back. They're not going to. There's no chance they're coming back not guilty. But he's. But there seems to be the popular consensus seems to be the longer it takes them, the less likely it is that they're going to be unanimous on guilty. So I think Danny's probably feeling better. That's why I hope we get a last minute surprise. Okay, Krista F. Hi, AA Ron. I have to know if you think Danny is doing his daily Scientology courses, also e-meter readings. Okay, I know what you're talking about. This isn't really a thing. So if you are enrolled on a Scientology course, you are expected to attend 2.5 hours a day or 12.5 hours per week. There are plenty of times when you're simply not enrolled on a Scientology course. It's not, I have heard it said, and it is simply not true, that as a Scientologist, you are expected every day of your life to go in and spend 2.5 hours a day in a Scientology course room or an auditing session. That's an oversimplification, and it's not an accurate statement. There is zero reason to believe, and I do not believe, that Danny is even allowed to be doing a Scientology course right now, or even auditing. I don't think that Scientology wants anything to do with Danny until this gets resolved and he's found not guilty. That's my personal opinion. Thank you for the question, Krista. Denver Stevo. This week with Denver Stevo, Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Say it ain't so. Danny Masterson is not locked up yet. Say it ain't so. Are you doing a thing Saturday at 8, Denver Stevo? Shoot me an email and make sure I know exactly what you're talking about. Because if you're doing a thing Saturday at 8, I just want to make sure that I'm not, because if you're doing some big launch, maybe I'll even maybe if you're doing a thing at 8 and if I'm around and if I have time, maybe I'll do a little thing leading up to it, like before it, and then redirect to your thing. So shoot me an email, Denver Stevo. Let me see. Oh my God. That is so funny. Dave Owens, I heard an anonymous caller accused you of keeping your wife in a bunker and that you cheat on your taxes. It seems they confused you with Miscavige. Yes, Dave Owens, you heard correctly. I got a call from the Clearwater Police yesterday. And it's funny that I answered the phone because I usually don't answer numbers that aren't already in my phone. And he's like, this is Detective whatever with the Clearwater Police. I made him repeat himself a few times just to make sure I really understood what was happening here. And he goes, we received an anonymous call from a lady in LA saying that you keep your wife chained up in a bunker and that you're being investigated by the IRS for some tax fraud. And I was like, oh, did you now? And I said, I don't mean to sound weird, but do you already know who I am? And he's like, no, sir. I have no idea who you are. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, okay. I do have a channel called Growing Up in Scientology. And I explained the whole Scientology thing. And he goes, oh, okay. Why Los Angeles though? I was like, oh yeah, I just spent a month in Los Angeles covering the Danny Masterson Scientology rape trial. And he goes, oh, okay. All right. Okay. So you promise you don't keep your wife chained up in a bunker? Swear to God, officer, swear to God. He's like, all right, we're going to close this one out. All right. Trad 789. Odd. The mere force used to accomplish penetration under regular circumstances qualifies as the force that would satisfy the requirement of the law, at least in the jurisdiction I'm familiar with. Trad, it is odd. I mean, even when I explain the stuff on this about the California law on streams like this, even people with a history of working for the police and even lawyers are like, I don't understand that. I go, I don't understand it either. But this is what the people, the lawyer folks, the esteemed lawyer folks out in California claim that. I mean, Cohen even said something. Was it in the pretrial hearing? It was terrible. He goes, we wish this was a drugging and raping case. That's what Cohen said. He goes, we only wish this was a drugging and raping case because if it was, we wouldn't be here. And that's why Cohen was so pissed off that the DA and the victims were allowed to spend so much time talking about the women having been drugged. He said, that's not what's being charged in this case. And the judge was like, it doesn't matter if that's what's being charged in this case. You keep trying to impeach their memories. And the fact that they were drugged may not be what they're charged with, but it does speak to problems with recall. And yeah, really interesting stuff. Okay, let's see. Cyborg Scientology. Will you be notified in advance for a verdict? Well, there will be social media notifications that go out from the journalists who are in the courtroom. And I believe once they come with a verdict, it's like a 1 or 2 hour window that the attorneys are given to get everything ready and get into the courtroom. So there'll be plenty of notice. Let's see. Drew Pittman. Scientology frequently has a table selling LRH books at my local comic convention. Would it dissuade them if I got several aftermath cards and dropped them off at the table, it probably wouldn't dissuade them. It would definitely put you on their radar. I'm not saying do it or don't do it. Like, they're not going to not go there and sell books because they do that, but they might make a complaint about you. So if you don't mind them making complaint about you, then by all means, Drew, give it a shot. Okay, Ali Star. Normally, jury duty is work protected leave. Oh, I know. I know. I'm kind of kidding. Yeah, but no, I get it. I don't IDK James. I don't know James. Hey, Aaron and Goldie, what is the most boring course in Scientology? Oh boy, I don't know how you would define boring here. I'd say there's plenty of courses like most Scientology courses are broken up into theory and practical, and theory is the studying part and practical is the doing part. The courses that have a lot of practical, almost by definition, are not boring. The courses that are super, super heavy studying are boring. In that vein, I might say Staff Status 1 or 2 or one of the OEC volumes. If you look up like Scientology policy volumes, you'll see these big, fat, thick green books. Those are called the OEC volumes or the Org Exec course volumes. Probably doing one of those volumes is the most boring one. That's my answer. Thank you for the question. Let's see. Nina Buckingham. You would have made a great lawyer, Aaron. Thanks for your service and keep up the badassery. In another dimension or alternate universe where I could do it all over again, I probably would want to be a trial attorney, to be honest. I like what I see. I like what I see in the courtroom. I like the performative aspect of it to a degree. Yeah. But honestly, it just takes too much work. I'm an old man. I'm an old 42. And I like to enjoy my life. I'm a certain degree ambitious and a certain degree lazy. And I don't know. I couldn't possibly see myself doing that at this point in my life. But if I had to do it again, very, very much possibly. All right, let's see. Emma Helps. Are you interested in outing other cults as well? Well, interested is an interesting word. The problem is, I think in order to be qualified to really stick it to a cult, I think you really have to be an expert in it. You really have to know what you're talking about. You really have to not just be repeating stuff you've studied. I think you have to have personal experience with it. I would never feign to have enough familiarity with any other organization I had not personally been involved in to take an activist position with respect to that organization. So, for this reason, it's not a matter of interest. It's a matter of qualification. It's so easy to call some group a cult and say, I don't know, what do you say? Like, even with Scientology, I don't say Scientology is a cult and they shouldn't exist. I don't feel that way. Scientology should have a right to exist. Scientologists should have a right to believe in Scientology. I don't believe they're worthy of tax exemption. I don't believe they're worthy of protection, religious protection in the courts. I don't believe they should be able to abuse children and the elderly. They shouldn't be able to hide. You shouldn't be able to skirt mandatory reporting laws for child abuse and stuff like this. And my position on it is, as long as there are platforms like this one and many others where people can go to get the truth about the abusive nature of Scientology's policies and practices, and as long as we can eventually see Scientology's tax-exempt status revoked, that's all good in my book. I'm not qualified to take upon those tasks for any group other than Scientology. And so that is why, if I had to say yes or no to this question, it would be a no, but it's a qualified no. Any other group that exists has its own former members who are better qualified than I to advocate for those people. And yeah, that's a pretty long answer to a pretty short question. So thank you, Emma. I appreciate it. Cindy What? I always struggle with that one, Cindy. You know it. Hey, Aaron, you need to get bumper stickers made saying, what would Xenu do? And slap it on the PIs. Actually, somebody sent me that just a couple days ago, and I forgot to do it. What would Xenu do? What would Xenu do? Bumper stickers. Okay. I think if I were to stick a sticker onto someone else's car, though, they might be able to call that vandalism. So I'm gonna have to stay away from that one. But I'm picking up what you're laying down, Cindy. I appreciate it. Okay, what's this? I don't know, James. By the way, those numbers you put out are registered with plenty of auto dealers now and insurance quotes. Like hundreds. That's amazing. I published the 2 phone numbers that the Scientology PI is using currently to call my friends, associates, and neighbors. If this guy doesn't has the audacity not to answer the phone when I call, who does he think he is? Not answering the phone when I call. I just wanted to have a friendly conversation with him. I wanted to save him some work. He keeps calling everybody I know, asking for a character reference. Who better to get a character reference from than the man himself? But he wouldn't answer the phone for me, guys. So I had to publish his phone numbers to the internet and see if he would answer the phone for you guys. And apparently he doesn't answer the phone for anybody, but he's getting an awful lot of voicemails. So anyway, thank you. I don't know, James. That's awesome. Okay, let's see. The Moody Therapist. I love that name, the Moody Therapist. Hey there, Aaron, in this amazing community. As objective as I'm trying to be, I just cannot wrap my head around why this is not a slam dunk for the Jane Doe's DA. I agree with you. I'm just being nice and generous and optimistic, but I do agree with you. Joshua Cox, is there teaching or policy in Scientology that helped you? You know, I think there's a particular mindset that exists in Scientology that I'm not going to say that helped me, that I think is generally a helpful way to approach life in general. And that's sort of that you can do anything about anything. I realize that's not universally true in all situations, but it is kind of a healthy mindset to have as long as you don't overdo it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there is also, I find great value in recognizing that there are things you cannot do something about, but that concept is sort of married to, okay, in any situation, there's things you can't do anything about. However, in any situation, that's why what you want to focus on is only the things you can do something about, and try to be effective in that area and throw everything else away and don't get preoccupied with it. It's not like that's a mindset exclusive to Scientology. It's just a mindset that, because Scientology was really the only path that I traveled from the age of 12 to 34, it was the source of that mindset for me. And I do find that helpful. I mean, I think that makes sense, right? All right, everyone. Let's see. It's 8:39. It looks like we have come to the end of the video and the end of the evening. I do have somewhere to go, but hey, thank you guys for tuning in late with me. It's about 8:40. I guess it's only late on the East Coast. It's pretty early everywhere else. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Thank you to everyone who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe